Hello there. Do you have a project manager interview coming up shortly? Then this is the video for you. In this video, we are going to cover the top interview questions related to project stakeholder management and project scope management. Answers have been explained with the help of a case study for easy understanding. If you have not already subscribed to our channel, please do so and hit the bell icon so that you would be notified when we release new videos on project management related topics. Let's get started. As always, we will use a simple case study which will make the concepts easy to grasp. A large IT company based in New York was developing a mobile food ordering application for a popular restaurant Vegan Gardens owned by Jane. Mary was assigned as the project manager to manage the end-to-end development of the application. Let us use this simple case study to see how Mary handles the stakeholders and faces the challenges while interacting with them. Now let us begin with the questions related to project stakeholder management. Question number 1. Who are project stakeholders? How do you identify and analyze them? Stakeholders are individuals or groups who have a vested interest in the project and can influence or be influenced by its outcomes. Identifying and analyzing them is a crucial step in project management. Here is a step-by-step guide to help you identify and analyze project stakeholders. Mary, the project manager, clearly defined the project's objectives, deliverables, and boundaries. This helped her to identify stakeholders who were directly or indirectly impacted by the project. She utilized stakeholder analysis techniques by gathering a team of project members and stakeholders who had knowledge about the project. She brainstormed and listed all the individuals or groups that may have an interest in the project. She considered both internal stakeholders like project members, employees, and external stakeholders like Jane, customers, delivery partners, and so on. She grouped stakeholders based on their level of influence and interest in the project. She conducted stakeholder interviews to understand and analyze their needs, expectations, influence, and potential impact on the project. Tools like Stakeholder Analysis Grid or Matrix helped her visualize this information. Then she prioritized stakeholders based on the above information and created a registry for the same. We can also identify and analyze stakeholders by leveraging previous project experience. These were some of the stakeholders she identified. Restaurant owner who wanted to increase sales and streamline the ordering process. Customers who desired convenience and a seamless online ordering experience. Delivery staff who required efficient coordination and timely delivery of orders. IT team or developers who focused on technical feasibility and implementation. Marketing team who wanted to promote the application and attract more customers. Remember that stakeholder identification and analysis is an iterative process. As the project progresses, new stakeholders may emerge and existing stakeholders may change their level of influence or interest. Regularly review and update your stakeholder analysis to ensure effective project management. Question number 2. Can you explain the process you follow to effectively engage the stakeholders throughout the project lifecycle? Effectively engaging stakeholders throughout the project lifecycle involves a systematic approach to communication, involvement, and relationship management. May developed a stakeholder engagement plan. She outlined the strategies, activities, and channels she would use to engage the stakeholders like face-to-face meetings, emails, project management softwares, and so on. She identified stakeholder communication needs to understand specific goals, objectives, and desired outcomes for stakeholder engagement. She conducted regular meetings, status updates were provided, and feedback sessions were encouraged. She always actively listened to the stakeholders, addressed their concerns, and assessed their satisfaction levels as needed. Question number 3. How do you determine the expectations and needs of different project stakeholders? Determining the expectations and needs of different project stakeholders involve understanding the requirements and perspectives of individuals or groups who have a vested interest in the project's success. Mary, the project manager, identified different stakeholders. She conducted stakeholder analysis to understand their roles, interests, and potential impact on the project. To gather stakeholder expectations and needs, Mary scheduled meetings and workshops. She specifically met with Jane, the restaurant owner, to discuss her vision, desired features, and unique requirements. Additionally, Mary surveyed potential customers to gather insights on their preferences for a food delivery application. Based on stakeholder input, Mary defined the project objectives. These included developing a user-friendly mobile application that allowed customers to browse menus, place orders, and track deliveries in real time. She made sure to clearly communicate these objectives to all the stakeholders. Mary prioritized the integration of the application with the restaurant's existing ordering system as a high priority requirement. She effectively managed conflicting expectations through discussions and finding mutually beneficial solutions. To document and validate the requirements, Mary captured specific details such as integration with the restaurant's menu and pricing system, secure payment gateway, and real-time order tracking. She shared these requirements with the restaurant owner for validation and confirmation. Throughout the project, Mary maintained regular communication with the stakeholders, providing updates on the progress of the application development and encouraging their feedback. In summary, Mary conducted stakeholder analysis, scheduled meetings, defined objectives, managed expectations, documented requirements, and maintained regular communication to ensure stakeholder involvement and meet their needs throughout the application development. Question number 4. How do you keep stakeholders informed about the project progress and the changes made? Keeping stakeholders informed about the project progress and changes is crucial for maintaining transparency and managing their expectations. Mary scheduled regular meetings with Jane to share information on the progress made, milestones completed, challenges they faced, and so on. She used visual aids to support the information. She prepared progress reports that summarized the project's status and included key accomplishments, upcoming tasks, risks, and mitigation strategies. She distributed these reports to the stakeholders on a regular basis, such as weekly or monthly. She provided prototypes of the mobile application and did a demo which assisted the stakeholders to visualize the progress made and the functionality of the application. Mary solicited her feedback during these sessions to ensure alignment with Jane's expectations. She established a change management process which clearly communicated the process to the stakeholders, including how changes could be requested, evaluated, and approved. She informed Jane promptly about any approved changes and their impact on the project. Mary used communication channels like emails and project management softwares and other collaboration platforms, and also ensured that they were easily accessible and comfortable for all the stakeholders to use. That she had a clear and transparent communication with the stakeholders about the progress made. Question number 5. How to handle conflicting priorities or interests among project stakeholders. Conflicting priorities or interests among project stakeholders are not uncommon. In such situations, Mary employed a collaborative approach. She facilitated open discussions, encouraged stakeholders to share their perspectives, and actively listened to their concerns. She tried to identify common goals and objectives like increasing customer satisfaction and optimizing the ordering process, and prioritize them based on importance and feasibility. Jane's priority was revenue growth, while customers' priority was convenience and ease of use. She tried to bring a win-win situation where Jane could compromise by implementing a user-friendly application interface while customers could compromise on a bit longer delivery time during peak hours. She negotiated by encouraging stakeholders to understand each other's constraints and limitations. For example, IT team could explain the technical challenges or constraints for addition of a complicated feature to Jane. She documented all the decisions, compromises, and agreements to prevent misunderstandings in the future. She reviewed it from time to time. If necessary, it is advisable to escalate the issues to higher management and involve relevant stakeholders in decision-making process to achieve consensus and ensure the project's success. Question number 6. How to manage a challenging stakeholder? While handling projects, we come across challenging stakeholders who have significant influence but hold strong opinions that contradict project objectives. Mary encountered one such situation where the system of live tracking of the delivery was emphasized by Jane, the restaurant owner, after viewing the project prototype, which gave rise to disagreements in IT team because of technical limitations. Moreover, the budget initially agreed upon would shoot up to enable the feature. So Mary first tried to understand the perspectives and expectations of different stakeholders by having one-on-one discussions with them. IT department focused on technical feasibility and integration with the existing system, while Jane wanted to make her application more convenient for the customers. Mary established open communication where stakeholders felt comfortable expressing their needs, concerns, and expectations. Concerns and risks were addressed and solutions were proposed. She encouraged collaborating decision-making for broader benefit of the organization and the restaurant, where they decided to let go of the live tracking feature in the first release and implement it in the later versions with some more budget and time. This was a win-win situation for both Jane and the IT team, where Jane could get the feature included in the later versions and IT team could implement the feature with an increased time and budget. Mary documented all the decisions agreed upon to eliminate misunderstandings in the future. Remember that managing challenging stakeholders require patience, empathy, and effective communication skills. By actively addressing their concerns, involving them in decision making, and maintaining open lines of communication, you can navigate difficult situations and foster a positive and productive relationship with the stakeholder. Okay, let's begin with chapter 2, that is questions related to project scope management. Question number 8. What is project scope management? Project scope management involves defining and controlling what work is required and what is not required to complete a project successfully. Mary started off by getting requirements like user-friendly interface, menu selection, order tracking with the help of product owner. Then she defined the project scope, like project would include designing and developing the mobile app, integrating it with the restaurant's existing ordering and delivery systems, and testing the app's functionality and usability. Then she created the project scope statement, which outlined the project's objectives, deliverables, and major milestones. It clearly defined what the mobile app would include and what it would not include. It also set the project boundaries and any constraints such as budget, time frame, and technology platforms to be used. She created work breakdown structure (WBS) to break down the project scope into manageable components. For instance, WBS Level 1 Mobile App Development Project, WBS Level 2 Planning, Design, Development, Testing and Deployment, WBS Level 3 Design UI, Develop Database, Implementation and so on. Throughout the project, Mary had to control the scope changes. After a couple of months after the development started, Mary got a request from Jane to integrate payment gateway, which was decided as pay on delivery option earlier. Mary carefully assessed the impact of this change on the project's budget, schedule and resources. Changes didn't align with the project objectives and hence she convinced Jane to defer it to a later version. Project managers should be vigilant about scope creep that refers to the uncontrolled expansion of the project scope beyond the initial boundaries. To avoid scope creep, any proposed changes outside the agreed upon scope should be evaluated thoroughly and addressed through the change control process. Once the project got completed, Mary got involved in reviewing the deliverables against the original project scope statement to ensure that all the requirements were met. Question number 9. Why is project scope management important? Project scope management is crucial because it establishes a clear understanding of project's objectives, deliverables, and boundaries. It helps to prevent scope creep and ensures that the project stays focused within budget and on schedule. Project scope management gave clarity on objectives, and Mary ensured that the team focused on building the application with specific functionalities needed for ordering food online. It helped to prevent scope creep. In Mary's case, payment gateway integration was not initially a part of the original plan, and it was decided to defer the feature to the later versions, which prevented unnecessary additions that might have impacted the budget and timeline. With a well-defined scope, Mary could accurately estimate the required resources such as developers, designers, and testing personnel for the app development. It also helped in accurate cost estimation and ensured that the deployment stayed within the allocated budget. Project timelines were taken care of with clear milestones. With a project scope, potential risks and challenges can be identified more effectively. Question number 10. What is the purpose of the project scope statement? The project scope statement serves as a critical document that defines the project's objectives, deliverables, boundaries, and major milestones. The clear objectives assisted the project team to understand the primary purpose of mobile app development. Specific deliverables like user-friendly interface, menu browsing and selection, ordering, etc. were mentioned. Mary mentioned the boundary that the app would be available for iOS and Android users only. The assumptions and constraints made during the planning phase, like assuming a certain number of daily orders, potential peak hours, fixed budget, and so on, were added. The scope statement also aided in identifying potential risks and challenges that might arise during the project timeline, like IT limitations to handle live tracking of delivery, and risk mitigation strategies were identified. When Jane requested for addition of payment gateway integration at a later stage in the project, the scope statement becomes a reference point for evaluating change requests and help Mary to explain the impact and constraints on the existing development of the app. The project scope statement also serves as a project communication tool for all the stakeholders. Question number 11. What is the difference between product scope and project scope? Product scope refers to the features and functions that characterize a product, service, or result. Project scope, on the other hand, defines the work required to deliver the product, service, or result. Here, product scope can be user-friendly interface for easy navigation, menu selection and customization options, secure online payment options, real-time order tracking, options to manage delivery addresses. Project scope can be requirement gathering and analysis to understand the app's features and functionalities, designing the app's user interface and user experience, developing the app's front-end and back-end functionalities, integrating the app with the restaurant's existing ordering and delivery systems, testing the app for functionality, usability, and security, deploying the app to app stores, and ensuring a smooth launch. Question number 12. What are the key elements of a project scope statement? The key elements of a project scope statement includes project objectives. Clearly states the purpose and objectives of the project. What is the desired outcome or result that the project aims to achieve? Project deliverables. List the tangible outputs and results that the project will produce. These are the specific products, services, or results that the project is intended to deliver. Project scope description provides a detailed narrative that describes the overall project scope, including the major components and key features of the project. Project boundaries clearly define the limits of the project scope, what is included in the project and what is specifically excluded. This helps to prevent scope creep. Assumptions. Identify any assumptions made during the project planning process. Assumptions are factors or conditions that are considered to be true but have not been validated. Constraints. List the limitations or restrictions that may impact the project, such as budget constraints, resource limitations, time restrictions, or regulatory requirements. Project acceptance criteria. Specify the criteria that must be met for the project to be considered complete and accepted by the stakeholders. Project exclusions. Enumerate the items or work that is explicitly excluded from the project scope. This helps to avoid misunderstandings and scope-related issues. Project constraints. Describe any factors that may limit the project's options or approaches, such as schedule constraints, budgetary restrictions, or technological limitations. Stakeholder identification. Identify key stakeholders and their roles in the project. This helps project sponsors, team members, and other relevant stakeholders. Project approval. Include information about the approval process for the scope statement. Who needs to approve it and what are the steps for obtaining approval? Question number 13. How can a project manager gather requirements for the project scope? Mary gathered requirements by conducting interviews. It can also be gathered through workshops, surveys, and focus groups with the key stakeholders. She also analyzed the existing documentation, reviewed similar projects, and used various elicitation techniques to ensure comprehensive requirement gathering. Question number 14. What is the purpose of Work Breakdown Structure (WBS) in project scope management? The purpose of a work breakdown structure (WBS) in project scope management is to break down the project deliverables into smaller, manageable work packages. It organizes the project's tasks and activities in a hierarchical structure, providing a clear and systematic view of the project's scope. By doing so, the WBS helps in planning, estimating, and managing the project effectively. In our case study for Level 1, Mary defined the project phases like initiation, planning, execution, monitoring, and closure. In Level 2, the major deliverables were jotted down like the market research and requirement gathering, app development, integration, testing, and deployment. In Level 3, specific tasks were explained. Example for app development level, the following were explained. Designing work frames and mockups for the app, developing the user interface UI design, create the app's front end using programming languages, implement the backend server and database. And another example for integration, set up communication between the app and the order management system, enable real-time order tracking for customers, integrate the app with the payment gateway, and so on. Question number 15. How does project scope management contribute to risk management? Clear project scope helps identify potential risks and uncertainties early in the project. By defining boundaries and expectations, project scope management enables project teams to better understand what might go wrong and take preventive measures to address potential risks. Mary identified the risk of scope creep due to additional feature of live tracking requested by Jane, which was not a part of initial scope. She analyzed the impact of including these features on app's development's timeline, cost, and resources. She evaluated whether these changes align with the project's overall objectives and budget. To address the risk of scope creep, the project team implemented a robust change control process. The requested change to the app's feature was carefully assessed for its impact on the project's timeline and budget before approval. The project team regularly reviewed the scope of the mobile app project and compared it to the original scope statement. They used this information to track potential scope changes and assess their impact on the project's progress and objectives. Effective scope change management is crucial for risk mitigation. The project team ensured that any scope changes went through a formal change control process. By integrating project scope management with risk management, the project manager could proactively address potential risks associated with the app development project. Question number 16. How can a project manager prevent scope creep? Preventing scope creep is essential for project success and requires proactive management by the project manager. Mary first clearly defined the project scope, detailing the app's features, functionalities, and objectives, as well as explicitly identifying what was out of scope after having workshop with all the stakeholders. Then she developed a robust change control process. Establishing a formal change control process is crucial to manage scope changes effectively. The process should require any proposed changes to go through an evaluation, impact analysis, and approval before implementation. When Jane requested for addition of payment gateway, Mary followed the change control process to assess the implications on the development time, resources, and budget, and the feature was approved only for the later version of the app. She engaged stakeholders early and often. She held fortnightly meetings with the key stakeholders to provide update on the app's progress and addressed any potential scope-related concerns promptly. Mary worked with Jane to identify the most critical features for the initial app release, ensuring that the core functionalities such as menu browsing and online ordering were prioritized. Mary used a project management tool to monitor the app's development progress and it compared it to the original scope statement. When the payment gateway feature was requested, she addressed it through the change control process and included it in the later versions. She also explained the development complexities and the impact on the project timeline and budget for inclusion of payment gateway feature to Jane and allowed her to make an informed choice.